Winback Farm of Delaware is home to 8 established stallions, including Ronnie's Bags Again, sire of multiple $100,000 DSBF final winners each year. World champion Royal Majesty is new to Delaware in 2021, proven sire of stakes winners. Horse of the Year Glide Masters, the sire of Millionaire Maven, his first Delaware crop will be 2 in 2021, and Heston Blue Chip stands at Nandy Farm in Pennsylvania, sire of $980,000 earner Zero Tolerance first Pennsylvania crop will be yearlings in 2021. For more information, visit winbackfarm.com.
Marlowe, Hanover, Oticon, Hanover up in
Green Shoe will win the Kentucky Futurity.
It's all Hanover in 149-2. You're my candy girl, 148-2, a stakes and trend record.
Percy Blue Chip for the victory.
I'm here with trainer Brian Brown, who over the last 10 years has become one of the greatest names in the sport of harness racing. But Brian, let's take it back to your early beginnings in Upper Sandusky. I talked to your wife earlier this week, and she was telling me that from a young age and through your parents, you always had a desire to work with 2- and 3-year-olds.
Yes, I mean, this is what they did. They had actually, before we had started school, we used to go with them to the meadows and Wheeling, West Virginia, live in a camper. So they had all older horses. Once we got in school, they had to give that up, and they started training the young horses so they could be home with us. But that's what I grew up on, was the younger horses, and that's what I like to do.
That's what she told me. She said that you know that is truly your passion. How has it changed from your early beginnings at the Ohio County Fairs to now with Grand Circuit racing?
Well, it's I don't want to say it's easier, because when you step up, it gets a lot tougher. The horses are tougher. But the horses in general have evolved so much that, you know, when I grew up helping my dad and uncle, you might be a month trying to get a horse to pace. These guys are pacing the first day you put the hobbles on. So it's a lot nicer horses. It's a lot tougher racing, but I still think our job's probably easier now than it was then.
A lot of different trainers of your caliber have stables all over the country, are managing different farms and racetracks. You base out of Delaware and then go all over, but I would assume that the reason why you stay there at Delaware is because of the great surface, but also the family.
Both. We have a lot of family. They used to work for us, and a lot of them have moved on. You know, they're doing their thing now. But yes, Delaware is a great track. You know, it's not jug day every day there. The footing's not that way, but it's still a good place to train. I have had stables at different places. I had a stable in Hoosier a couple years ago, but honestly, I don't like it. I want them to where I can see them. You know, and I've had people in them places that it still worked out. We did good. Right. So, but I would rather the horses be where I can see them.
When you talk about being able to see them, you're training a stable here of almost 80 horses. How do you manage that, to sit behind them, or do you feel that you can see them just as well on the side? How do you touch every horse and know what's going on? What's your theory on that?
You don't get to touch every horse every week, but over a 2 or 3 week period, I've sat behind pretty much all of them. But I depend on my guys. You know, they tell me their opinions and everything. We work together to figure it out. If there's a problem horse, then I do sit behind that horse more. But this year, I've split the training up with the 2-year-olds to where I am in every set. Some sets go, say we'll train on Tuesday and Saturday, those horses. The next week, they'll come back on Thursday. And then the other sets will train Thursday and then back Tuesday and Saturday. So I've got it to where I've been in every set. Probably from the time they started going in 2:30 on, I've been in every set. So it's worked out okay.
Tell us, by this point, have you separated into your A-level horses, B-level horses? Have you been able to distinguish that with stakes payments happening just a week ago? Or are there still some that you're waiting to develop? Have some shown themselves to be at a higher level currently?
We have those ones that we really liked. We staked to the Breeders' Crown, those kind of races, whether they're Captain Treacherouses or Always Be Mickeys. We did stake a handful of Seasides to the Breeders' Crown this year, so it's given him as much chance as those horses. But right now they look like really nice horses. But I do have some that get a little sore or something and they get behind, so those get grouped together. But I try not to put the ones you think are the best together. I think we get to racing too much. You know, they do it so much easier, so you wind up going faster than we're supposed to. So I don't put the better ones all in one set and then the next set. I mix them all together so we all stay together.
Talking about Down by the Seaside, the horse that you developed and went on to now train 21 of, I believe Jenny said, in the barn. What were you looking for when purchasing those horses? Did you look for ones that looked just like him? Are you finding that you're gravitating towards those with that type of gait? Or are you training some that really don't have the same characteristics, but you like them just the same?
A little bit of both. I go to the sale and I'm looking for a type. That doesn't mean I don't buy a smaller horse, but I don't buy very many. I like the big, strong horses. That's what I usually buy the most of. But we have a few, especially homebreds, that we have a really nice Seaside filly that come to us that was very small, and she's grown a ton. Now, she's still not the kind of horse that I like, but she has really put on a lot of weight and looks pretty good. But as far as the Seasides, they do, I think, resemble him, but I think they're a little maybe finer made than the most of the Sun Beaches, where my luck with the Sun Beaches were the big coarse bone, big raw horses, where the Seasides, there are a couple that way, but the majority of them are not. They're not as coarse even as he was. They're a little finer. But they have some of his tendencies. Some of them are getting a little hot already. Not like it's a problem, but I've got ear hoods on 2-year-olds already, and this is probably a little early for even me. But they're the best part about them, they have good attitudes. They want to go. Like I said, maybe they're getting a little too aggressive, but I'm not worried about it right now.
Brian, let's go through a couple of your recent purchases this year, starting with a $100,000 purchase, a 2-year-old colt, Ohio-bred Gulf Shores.
He's not like a special-looking horse. He's grown. He wasn't a big horse when we bought him, but most people would say he's the right size, not too big or too small. But he has grown, put on weight since he's been here. But he's one of those horses that you could almost say he looks like a brown paper bag. There's nothing special about him. He's good gaited, but not a flashy gaited. But he goes out there and he does everything right. Other than getting sick earlier in the winter, he had to spend some time over to the clinic. There's just nothing wrong with him. He's been sound every day. He goes out there and does whatever you want. He's not one of the Seasides that are grabby. He's really calm, a little maybe on the lazy side, but that's okay too. Just a nice horse to be around, does everything right.
Right. You know, Gulf Shores, you know that was a famous horse's name. Did you know that?
Jenny had told me that you told her that, yes.
Yes, exactly. Gulf Shores was the original name for Canbest. So hopefully, same luck there.
I would take him turning into Canbest would be all right.
Exactly. Let's go on to the other $100,000 Fire by the Sea 2-year-old colt, Ohio bred.
He's a big colt. He was big when we bought him. He's a half-sister to a filly that my wife bought, Pretty President and Perfect. She was a really nice filly, a big bad John. She was a lot smaller than him, but just had a heart of gold. Tried her heart out. She lost one race as a 2-year-old. She made a break in the final of the Sire Stakes. That's the only race she lost. We finally found it, took it out. Still had problems at 3, got really good, then cracked a knee. She was meant to be a really good horse. This horse doesn't look anything like her. Bigger, stronger, but from day one, been a really nice colt. The Seasides took maybe a month to get gaited, where others got gaited easily. And some of them were perfect gated, paced day one, but they weren't bad gated, but they just kept getting better gated. It took about a month for them to get really good gated. That horse was similar. He took him a little while to get gated, but he's not one of the overly aggressive ones either, but he's easy to get to go. He was a little lazy at the beginning, and now he's come around pretty good.
When you talk about getting them gated or it taking a month, is that something that you do through just repetition and building muscle, or is it something with shoeing? How does your operation do that?
Well, if we have bad gated ones, you're always messing with their hobbles. We put different shoes on, a heavier shoe behind, maybe even brace bandages. But the Seasides really weren't that way. They just weren't maybe exceptionally good gated from day one. They got better gated up there. And then as soon as we came to Florida, they miss about a week getting down here. And we even took the hobbles off. And some of those that were just average gated came out here and were free-legged and looked really good from the start. Honestly, I don't really know why.
What about some kind of an angel, a 2-year-old filly pacer, PA bred, $27,000 at Lexington? So seems like a little bit of a steal.
Mitch Skolnick, I don't know if it's under Bluestone or just Mitch, he raised her. They kept her. She was a good-looking filly. Honestly, I don't know why she didn't bring any more than that. I'm thankful she did, or I wouldn't have her. But big, strong, good gated, has a good attitude, laid back. She's not aggressive or anything, but just one of those you like to be around every day. We're talking about these horses when we're going in 220, and who knows when you're going in 55 if they're the same horses. I've been wrong a lot of times, but these are the ones that are doing really well, and I have several others that are doing good, but we only picked about 8 out here to talk about, so these are the ones I thought I should talk about.
Nighthawk, a 2-year-old Pennsylvania bred, $35,000. We saw him coming out the one day, and he was doing a little bit of striking, and he seemed like he was a good feeling colt.
That horse reminds you of working on a mystery because he's done the same thing all of his life. Goes to the track, ornery, striking and strutting, and they're built a little bit the same. Now this colt's a betting line. I wasn't planning on buying any betting lines, but by the time I got to Lexington, everybody kind of talked me into it because Bettor's Delight supposedly had a first crop similar to betting line, and his turned out to be great. So we jumped back in. I only had to give 35 from this horse, and he's a good family. The mare side's really good. He's gotten a little too aggressive, and I kind of call it scared speed because he'll get a little scared and he can take off. But he's probably my fastest 2-year-old right now. Now, again, once he gets calmed down, we made bridle changes, and he's gotten pretty good. Will he still seem as fast once he gets relaxed? Who knows? But right now, I honestly think he's a really nice horse.
Let's move on to Sea Luck, a 2-year-old colt pacer, $50,000, Ohio bred.
He's another Seaside, my kind, big, strong horse. He doesn't have maybe as good a family as some of these others. He's out of a rock and roll heaven mare that's the first fold, but he was such a good-looking horse. We gave 50 for him, so it's still a lot of money, but we didn't have to give the 100. But our guy Eli Miller at Spring Run Farm raised this horse, and we've had great luck buying yearlings from Eli. Whether he owned them or just raised them, they just seem to come in looking the part, and they're very healthy and strong. So we really like this horse, and with Eli raising it was just a bonus for us.
Gentle Giant, big tall colt.
This is a JK ENDOFANERA. I have 4 JK ENDOFANERAs that are really nice. I actually staked all 4 of them to the Breeders' Crown. They're all my size too. JK's a big horse. This is a big colt, and I think that's okay because we race at Hoosier all the time. If we had to race in Ohio on the halves, maybe this big style will catch up with me. But at Hoosier, I don't think it's a problem. So far, he's been perfect. He's not overly aggressive, but all you have to do is ask him, and he'll just take off.
Let's talk about JJ ENDOFANERA, continuing on the Indiana.
Yes, she's one of the 2 fillies I have. I kind of flip-flop back and forth between which one I think is the nicest. It's probably between which one I set behind that week. But both of them have been really good. This filly's decent size, not quite as big as the other filly, but again, just whatever you want to do, if you ask her, she'll take off.
What about Forever Sunshine?
She's a Seaside, and she might be my nicest Ohio filly right now. She's been dealing with the little throat infection, the pimples kind of thing. So I think when we get that cleared up, she'll be really nice. She's been doing everything good so far, good gaited. Again, one of the big, strong fillies. So I think she has a good future ahead of her.
Talk a little bit to me about your owners, your partners. You seem to have just a tight-knit group year after year who comes back and supports you.
Yes, and I'm very fortunate because the last 2 years we've been pretty average. We haven't won any major races, really haven't even been able to compete in the Grand Circuit. We've been in them, get checks, but we're not really where we go and think we have a chance like we have in the past. So, you know, it always makes you nervous come sale time if those people are going to keep. And this year they dove in probably harder than we have. We spent more money, might have bought more horses.
And I think, just also side note, Brian Brown saying average year in the Grand Circuit would be other people's dreams. So does it ever, how does that affect you, knowing that you've come to a point where I'm sure you watch the Grand Circuit races and now you're one of the biggest names out there competing?
Well, I try not to think about that. I mean, I still look up to the guys like Ronnie and Jimmy and a lot of the guys from out east. Now it's Nancy and you know, those are still the guys I want to race against and beat. So when I'm in those races and I can't beat them, it's depressing. You wonder what you're doing wrong. You know, you try to train similar to you do every year. Some years it works great, and some years it just don't work.
Do you stick with your training plan, or do you change if you hear different ideas, or if you see somebody doing something differently, will you change with it? Or are you confident in what got you here and you stick with it?
A little of both. This year, actually, I talked with Ronnie, and I heard that him and Jimmy double head their 2-year-olds. I've never done that before. I do it with my 3-year-olds. So this year, and it was as much a necessity of time as much as anything else. But so far it's worked out really good. I think if anything, it's making them stronger. So yes, I mean, I'm always asking people. I learn from my grooms that came from other stables, you know, things that are different. But I go to the racetrack, and there isn't many left anymore that have tack shops. I just go over and look at their bits just to see what's different. And I'm all the time talking to somebody that's successful and asking them questions about what would you do at this, or if I see one of their horses on the track with a different equipment or something, I talk to them about it.
Well, one last thing we have to focus on, especially with your family, is Jenny, a major part of your operation. Jess has become a trainer in her own right. Cam, a successful driver. Bo, now out training and driving. Tell me how proud you are to just see them go on and start making a name for themselves in the business.
Well, I wish they were all still with me, because those are people that you know you can depend on. They know what they're doing a good job. But you know, it's nice they're going out doing things on their own, especially I'm sitting here in Florida all winter. I get to watch Miami and Dayton, and Bo was at Northfield some. He's going to go to Canada this year and go out on his own, and it's time for him to. It's time for him to get away from me and go do his thing, learn from other people, see how things go. But it's nice to sit here and watch them. You know, I talk to Cam probably 2 days a week on his way home from Miami. He'll call me. We'll talk horses, drives. I can't help him on the drives anymore because he's a way better driver than I ever was. So we do talk about parts of racing, but it's more how to handle yourself and things, and more than how he drives. But you know, Bo's getting started. I have nieces and nephews that work for us. They've moved on and doing their own thing. So yeah, it's almost like having, you know, horses that you broke and trained, and they're out racing as older horses somebody else. Now my family's starting to do it. So it's nice to have something to watch and see how they're doing.
Yes, I heard one horseman speaking in regards to you say that he's great at developing young talent, and his greatest has been the development of his children. So I think that's a big compliment for you, and it stands for the person that you are. So.
Right. Well, we hope that they grew up to be good kids. I mean, that turn into good people, and Jenny probably has more to do with that than I do.
Tell me a little bit about Jenny real quick. Let's talk about her. She's the She does all the, she said let's not, but let's talk about all she does. She does all the books. She handles all the.
She's done everything in this stable at one time or another. Trained, she's even drove a couple races, she shipped, whatever we need to do. She doesn't get to go to the races anymore because she's at home managing everything. She manages the whole stable, ordering things. The charts that we were looking at, the training, she sets all that up for me. She's got charts for everything. We're shipping out this Friday. She has the sheets already ready, what horses go on what trucks. It just makes everything run smoother so that we can do our jobs the way we're supposed to.
Well, thank you for taking the time again with Brian Brown here at Spring Garden Ranch. I appreciate it. You still have 5 or 6 more to go with, right?
A few. I don't know. I hope there's not that many.
Well, thanks for taking time with us.
Thank you.
Marlowe, Hanover, Oticon, Hanover up in
Green Shoe will win the Kentucky Futurity.
It's all Hanover in 149-2. You're my candy girl, 148-2, a stakes and track record.
Percy Blue Chip for the victory!
Winback Farm of Delaware is home to 8 established stallions, including Ronnie's Bags Again, sire of multiple $100,000 DSBF final winners each year. World champion Royal Majesty is new to Delaware in 2021, proven sire of stakes winners. Horse of the Year Glide Masters, the sire of Millionaire Maven, his first Delaware crop will be 2 in 2021, and Heston Blue Chip stands at Nandy Farm in Pennsylvania, sire of $980,000 earner Zero Tolerance, first Pennsylvania crop will be yearlings in 2021. For more information, visit winbackfarm.com.